What is up, everybody? Welcome into Shout, a Buffalo Bills football podcast. We are live on location right now inside the New York Rec and Social Club out in Verona, New York at Turning Stone Resort Casino. Ryan, this place is absolutely buzzing. The NFL draft is on all of these TVs in here, and it's already been a wild night.
Yeah, unbelievable atmosphere here and a fun draft so far. Some big surprises.
It's great. You can do a little gambling off to the side, order a drink, get some food, and watch all the action. There's NBA playoff games on, NHL hockey playoffs, everything a sports fan could need.
You got it, Matt. I mean, I see NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, the draft, you name it, they have it on their screens here.
So we got a bunch of things in store for you on this live watch party edition. We're going to be reacting to the first 10 picks in this draft off the jump. We're going to be taking you into our reaction to each pick because, listen, the Buffalo Bills don't pick until 11:30 tonight. So a lot of Bills fans are sitting around watching this draft right now, like kind of sitting on their hands. We're going to talk about how it's shaping up. It's funny. There was a trade in the first opening half hour of the draft, but the players that have gone off the board, Ryan, it's been mostly chalk.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the players in mock drafts, national analysts, it's been the same players pretty much for the most part in order in those first 5-6 picks. Now you're starting to see a few surprises coming off the board, including one coming up here in a few seconds.
Definitely. But let's get to the trade first. I want to just hit on that right off the jump because the Giants and the Cleveland Browns were the two teams all week long. The draft experts were talking about being in the mix for a potential trade back. And it was the Cleveland Browns who traded back. They end up getting a first-round pick in next year's draft, including other draft capital. What was your first initial reaction to that deal?
Huge win for the Cleveland Browns, in my opinion, Matt. To be able to move from 2 to 5 and pick up a 2026 first-round pick. This year's quarterback class is pretty weak when you look at it. Cam Ward was the only quarterback projected.
I got to cut you off. The pick is in for the Carolina Panthers.
I'm okay with that.
We're going to go live to the commissioner here. Let's see what they do. Wow.
Crazy.
So that's a big curveball because a lot of people believe Tedararo McMillan, who, if you take Travis Hunter out of the mix, I think a lot of people felt like he was the top prize at wide receiver. But there was a mixed bag on him. Some GMs around the league believe, reportedly, that he's a top 5 caliber player, but there was just as many, if not more, that believed he kind of wasn't.
Right, and a lot of mock drafts, he was falling down the draft boards. You saw Matthew Golden being in the mix, being the next wide receiver off the board after Hunter. So to see him go at this point, a little bit of a surprise. You and I were talking about this a few seconds ago. Last year, Carolina took Xavier Legette. So now you have a second-round wide receiver, a rookie. Adam Thielen is your top 3 wide receivers. It's interesting. Now, Bryce Young, benched early in his career, comes back, looks like a potential franchise QB. Maybe in their mind, get him as many weapons as possible. Still, though, a little bit of an interesting pick to me. Real quick, though, going back to that trade, the fact that the Browns now have 2 first-round picks in 2026 and a better quarterback draft class, to me, that's a huge win for them.
I like the deal a ton because, listen, I get it. Travis Hunter is a great, maybe generational player, but you don't know that for sure. And if you're the Cleveland Browns, you've bungled so many decisions over the last couple of years. The Deshaun Watson situation is still looming over that organization. So to add draft capital in next year's draft, even if say the Jaguars have a pretty good year, let's even say they're a playoff team, I don't think you're going to win in a Super Bowl, so you're probably going to get something in the 20s. Cleveland's not going to be good. Now you have an additional first-round pick to get up to maybe the top pick to get the guy that you want.
Absolutely. That is huge. You just mentioned Deshaun Watson will be coming off the books either this year with a lot of dead cap or next year. They are not a contender in that division. When you look at those teams, you want to get as much ammo as possible to really build this up the right way in Cleveland, and now they can do that.
We're here inside Turning Stone Resort Casino, New York Rec and Social Club. Man, we got it made in the shade, Ryan Talbot. Wingnuts takes care of us. Turning Stone and New York Rec and Social is so awesome. In a little while, they'll be bringing out a tray of food here, and we're going to see this. Last time it was the Tower of Wings. Remember that?
Crazy wing of Tower of Wings last time. Unbelievable. Can't wait to see what they have for us here in a few minutes.
So we got some big news. We'll break some news on the podcast here. We have a brand new sponsor. It is the National Comedy Center. It's a museum in Jamestown, New York. If you've never been there, the big claim to fame is Lucille Ball. That's her hometown, right?
Hometown of Lucille Ball. And they get some major acts there, Matt. They have Bill Murray coming in August with his band. Jon Stewart's been there. Major comedians, the best of the best, just in Jamestown, New York. Happy to have them on board with Shout.
So excited. More to come on that. It's going to be a big summer for Shout as we move into training camp. Another new sponsor on deck for when we get to training camp. But that's much down the road. We're here at New York Rec and Social Club reacting to this draft. All right, so the top of the draft plays out pretty much how everybody expected. Abdul Carter goes to the Giants at number 3. Now, looking ahead, starting to think about trade back scenarios for the Bills. Only one quarterback is off the board at this point in Cam Ward. At that spot at 30, do you feel like the Giants, who have not taken a quarterback, are in play to try to get back in, whether it be 30 or elsewhere?
Yeah, 100%. The reports leading up to tonight's draft where the Giants are trying to trade into the end of round 1, potentially for a quarterback, depending on how this goes. So now you sit there and you say, okay, you don't know when a run could start. But if there's still no one else off the board at pick 30, or maybe only Shedeur Sanders has come off the board and you're high on Jackson Dart, you call the Bills. You have a great relationship with Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, a lot of the members of that front office, and you can entice them and say, hey, we can get you another pick on day 2, and oh, by the way, we can dangle a pass rusher in Kayvon Thibodeau. Now, Thibodeau, a former first-round pick, high pick of the Giants, 11.5 sacks 2 years ago, coming off of an injury last year. But if you're the Bills, that is one of your bigger needs. It's not as big as D-tackle or cornerback, but if you can get a proven pass rusher and another second-round pick, why wouldn't you consider it?
I want to talk about this for a second, because when you first brought up this name to me pre-show, we were talking with a couple of the Bills fans that are here in attendance watching the draft at New York Rec and Social. My first reaction was Kayvon Thibodeau, man. Like, he had the 11.5 sacks 2 seasons ago, but I was a little bit concerned about trading for him and then maybe a potential eventual contract extension. And the number could be huge there. I mean, this is a former first-round pick. He does have 1 season of 11.5 sacks. They just played Greg Rousseau. Are you willing to sign up for that? But you made a great point. You still got 2 years of roster control. You don't have to commit to a long-term extension right away. You got me kind of more on board with the idea of this pick or this trade.
And what did Brandon Beane say a few months ago? We would love a difference maker off the edge. I'm going to have to hold that thought. So hold on 1 second. The Saints pick is in.
Is it a quarterback?
I'm going to say no.
Kelvin Banks Jr. He's got some interior and tackle versatility. They don't know exactly where he's going to end up, but this makes a lot of sense to me. Carolina, I don't care what answers they have in their offensive line. You can't tell me they have 5 Pro Bowl players on their offensive line. I'd have much rather, if I was a Panthers fan, them went out and gotten a Calvin Banks over a Ted McMillan. And listen, McMillan might be a great elite wide receiver. We'll wait and see. But at that value, I don't know. I tend to go towards the trenches in that department.
And that makes sense. And with Banks and the Saints now, they have a lot of uncertainty at quarterback with the shoulder injury to Derek Carr. Maybe this is going to be a lost season for them, but build up your trenches so when you go out and get that franchise QB, they have the bodyguards in front. Now, going back to what we were just talking about, Brandon Beane a few months ago, Matt, said, man, I would love to have a difference maker off the edge. And then all of a sudden, Myles Garrett might be available. That didn't happen. He ends up getting over $40 million. Max Crosby, huge contract. You can get a young player, cost control contract, and if he produces double-digit sacks again, you're willing to pay him that money. You have him now on that roster. Bosa's only on a 1-year deal. Epenesa's on an expiring contract. You need another guy in there. And by the way, the draft is a crapshoot. Who knows what you could get at 30 or in round 2? You're getting someone that's already had double-digit sack production in the NFL.
And to me, whatever allows you to land a player that is going to limit how much you have to rely on Joey Bosa. That to me is the biggest point of this whole operation. It's why I've been advocating for a Trey Hendrickson trade if the Bills could somehow get it done, because what I think that does is slot Bosa in to the role that I think at this point in his career, let's just be honest and upfront. And if you're the Bills, you can't go into this season with Bosa saying, all right, we know we got to kind of load manage here, but at the same time, if we get into the thick of it and we need him to play because we can't trust a young rookie player, or AJ Epinesa is just not cutting it because he hasn't taken the next step. Now you're sitting there like you have to rely on Joey Bosa, who has year after year shown he struggles to stay healthy when he's asked to have to play 60, 70% of the snaps.
Absolutely. And right now they're very dependent on him with Michael Hoyt being suspended for this first 6 games, not knowing what you have in Javon Solomon. Solomon showed some promise late in his rookie year, but there's not enough there to go on. Epinesa has been very hit and miss in his career. Rousseau as well. He had that 8 sack total of the last few years. But, you want to have as many bodies to rotate as possible. That's been a big thing with Sean McDermott. Rotation of your defensive ends, rotation of your defensive tackles. So if you can get a bona fide pass rusher here and trade down and still get another day 2 pick, the Bills have to consider that if it, comes to fruition.
It is a live watch draft party right here inside New York Rec and Social out in Verona, New York, Turning Stone Resort Casino. And a couple picks away here, the Chicago Bears are on the clock. After that, to me, Bills fans are going to want to really tune in because San Francisco can really determine which kind of way this draft starts to go, because they've been mocked several times this week by some big-time mock drafters to go after a player, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmer, maybe Javon Walker out of Georgia. There's a lot of defensive linemen that they could choose to go with, or maybe they keep it on the offensive line. If the Bills are really eyeing a Kenneth Grant or a Derek Coleman, you want the middle picks of this draft to go by and those guys' names to still be available.
Yeah, the longer you don't have defensive tackles falling off the board, the better for the Bills, if that's their number one priority. You can say the same thing for a lot of the cornerbacks because they were in the mix with a lot of these players that are first-round, second-round caliber. So the more that stick around, the better off for the Bills. So far, so good with how things have played out. A lot of offensive linemen, no surprise there, but that's one area where the Bills are obviously set. The Bears here are about to make their pick, it looks like. Interested to see what they do with a young franchise quarterback in Caleb Williams, who had some flashes last year as a rookie.
So I wanted to spend a few minutes here as we wait for this pick to come up, and if it does come up, we'll kind of pause and go to that. There was a little bit of a rumor that was circulating over the last couple of hours before the draft started, and reportedly Nick Faribaugh out of PennLive.com, covers the Steelers, said that the Bills showing some interest perhaps in 21. We spent so much pre-draft time talking about a trade back scenario for the Bills, right? Trade up. We did the one show where I had the crazy idea, the historically unbelievable jump that I don't think could happen. But to get up to 21, that could potentially happen. It might be costly. Who do you think would be the target in that situation?
Well,
and I'm going to come back to you in a second because the pick's coming up right now. Chicago Bears, let's see what they got. The Bears could go in a couple of different directions here, Ryan, because you want to add weapons for Caleb Williams. They did a really good job this offseason adding talent on their offensive line. They made a couple of trades. They made a trade. They added a couple guys in free agency. They've really taken to heart what I think a lot of teams over the last couple of years have learned. If you don't spend to protect your young quarterbacks, I think Brandon Beane did a great job of this with Josh Allen in different iterations. He took that to heart. They got a couple of weapons. They got Rome Odunze in the draft last year. Is this where they focus on defense and building that side of the ball? Or maybe is this a spot for one of those tight ends? A great point made today by Jane Brugler from The Athletic on their podcast. Tight ends don't usually go this high. You meet Kyle Pitts, TJ Hawkinson. There's the rare exception. But most of those, I know everybody loves Tyler Warren, but at 10, I almost think that's a luxury the Bears they can't really afford.
I'm torn on it because we did see Sam Laporta come in as a rookie a few years ago, really become a difference maker. But there's been Dalton Kincaid who have had some up and downs in his career. So I get that. You look at
Schefter.
Oh, okay.
May 14th.
May 14th schedule release. That's big news.
Mark your calendars. That'll be a big podcast day when the schedule comes out. What's your hottest draft or schedule take?
I don't. Oh, tight end.
Wow. We'll get to the schedule in a minute.
Yeah.
So they go tight end. Consensus top tight end was Tyler Warren out of Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Colston Loveland.
He's picked up a lot of steam, though.
Out of Michigan.
Loveland, yeah.
To me, he's kind of more of the Dalton Kincaid, like potential, like more wide receiver than tight end.
Right. And listen, Caleb Williams needs as many weapons as possible. They had a pretty good wide receiver room 1 year ago. Now you add a tight end to the mix. I wouldn't have hated them going Walter Nolan on the defensive side of the ball here or something else, but I understand the thinking and the process behind that, Matt. So not a bad pick. Boy, the 49ers already have their pick in. Some teams are starting to move along here, but for the Bears, it's all about, stockpiling weapons for your young QB coming into year 2.
That, to me, has been the biggest trend that we've seen in the top 10 of this draft. You have a bunch of new regimes in New England with Mike Vrabel, the whole regime with the New York Jets, and obviously the same team's kind of been in place in Chicago, but all three of those teams are valuing taking care of their young quarterbacks. I mean, Justin Fields is in a little bit of a different situation. This is now his third team in 3 seasons, but building around him, giving him a chance by investing in the offensive line. We saw the Patriots do it. We saw the Jets do it. I know Bills fans probably aren't super excited about the fact that AFC East teams are kind of starting to take notice of how you build a roster, find your young quarterback, and then build around him.
And kudos to both teams because that is the right play. Offensive lineman, like anything else in this draft, it's a crapshoot. You don't know what you're getting. But with New England specifically, they probably feel pretty good about their quarterback situation. The Jets have a lot more uncertainty there, but building up the offensive line for Justin Fields in New York isn't a bad idea either. I see some comments here. Loveland is bigger than Kincaid. Absolutely. In terms of the skill set, I think Matt was talking about, though, from the wide receiver perspective. Going back to your previous question with the schedule takes, I was big on Buffalo getting another international game, but I've cooled on that a little bit because of the idea of the Bills playing at 9:30 in the morning on the East Coast, where there are ratings bonanza when they're in prime time. That might be, where I'm at right now.
My wife just texted me with the May 14th schedule release date. She says that's a big Disney for the year planning date because she wants to get another trip to Disney in. It looks like the pick is in. The commissioner's not coming up. They're going to commercial, so we'll talk for a few more minutes here. So as things set up right now through the first 10 picks, the top 3 defensive tackles remain on the board. Walter Nolan, who I don't think necessarily fits what the Bills would want to add. He's similar to Ed Oliver and like an undersized 3-technique defensive tackle.
And with Nolan, there's shoulder concerns right now. He was reportedly medically red flagged for something. Now, for some teams, they're going to ignore that, and they're going to say the talent is there. We like the player. Shoulder injuries are going to heal. He can be a difference maker. For others, they might say this could really hamper him as a rookie and going forward. So there's some question marks there.
And there's a difference, too, between like Derek Harmon and Walter Nolan, some of the medical concerns for those guys, as opposed to a Will Johnson, where I believe there's some evaluators who believe there might be some chronic injury issues for Will Johnson, something that's going to be consistently year after year, something that he's forced to deal with. So I just wonder if that's wow. The food has arrived.
I was going to say
the food has arrived. So we got to get a setup here for the tower. We're going to make sure that this is the pick, right?
That's right.
Okay. So let's see what we got here. So on the top, it looks like a little bit of a dip. What kind of dip is this?
Chicken wing.
Okay, chicken wing dip at the top. On the second, you got to give her the microphone so we can hear.
Cheese egg rolls and our onion rings.
Okay,
and
we got
at the bottom. We have chicken wings. We have medium and garlic parmesan.
Medium and garlic parm. Wow,
this smells amazing.
This is awesome. Thank you so much. All right, we're gonna have to try all this live on camera here. So right now we're inside Turning Stone Resort Casino, New York Rec and Social Club. We are live across all 3 platforms. 2,000 people watching live right now. And they're going to watch us crush some chicken wings.
That's right.
And listen, we tried these last time. I warned them beforehand. We are very tough critics on chicken wings. We know our wings, and they delivered last time. So let's check these out.
They look great.
I'll actually watch you eat them first.
All right.
It's more fun to see you make a mess.
I'm going to go with the garlic parm.
All right, so the 49ers are on the clock here. Huge pick because like we were just talking about with Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, another defensive tackle, Derek Harmon out of Oregon. I think the longer that those guys hang out on the board, because the cornerback situation is going to be interesting. I think that there's a bigger bucket of players that I don't think the Bills will feel a need to trade up unless there's one specific guy that they really like at 20.
No, absolutely. If there starts to become a run on defensive tackles or cornerbacks, wherever the Bills are targeting here, that's when you might see them trade up. By the way, really good crisp on this wing. Good flavor as well.
What did you go with first? You go with the
garlic parm.
The garlic parm? All right. That's a rookie move. Listen, you're from Buffalo, okay? I know it's Ole and Salamanca, but you're a Buffalo kid. You go with the traditional medium first. That's the only way to start. All right.
Right ahead.
So which one is okay, I got you. All right, let's see what we got here. Is it blue cheese or ranch? Okay, it's blue cheese. That would have been because listen, I have a hot take in this department. There's nothing wrong with eating a medium wing without any sauce to dip it in. You know, I think there's way too much vitriol slung around in Buffalo on the whole ranch blue cheese debate. All right, you're gonna have to talk for a second while I eat this.
No, absolutely. You're looking at right now the 49ers. I think they're going to go with the defensive player at this point in time. Now, I could be proven wrong, but that was a glaring weakness for them 1 year ago. They've been, a lot of edge rushers they've been tied to. Walker out of Georgia being one, defensive tackles. So this could be the start of that position starting to go off the board. Interested to see what the 49ers do.
This is a phenomenal chicken wing, okay? It is very rare to get a chicken wing this good out of the 716. And I'm not just saying that because we're here and everybody's watching. This is really a good chicken wing, like objectively.
Yeah, absolutely. Great play. I'm almost done with my first one here. I'm still working on it there, Matt.
What'd you say? Oh. All right, so the San Francisco 49ers pick has been in for what seems like a half hour. And the commissioner does not want to come out and announce the pick. What do you think for you as we look ahead to 30? What would you say would be for the Bills something that would make you go, I don't like that?
For the Bills?
For a day one result?
I don't know. It'd be tough for me right now because I saw someone propose maybe like late in round one, what if a guard is the best player available and you have an expiring contract there with one of your guards at the end of the season. That would probably be it for me. I'm even warmed up to safety with the Malachi Starks talk as of late with the talent level.
The pick is in.
Here we go.
Here we go. The comments are spoiling the picks for us. Somebody just tweeted or made a comment in there. Michael Williams out of Georgia, edge rusher. What do you think?
Like I said, they've been tied to a lot of edge rushers in this draft class. It doesn't surprise me. I thought either of the Georgia players, Jalen Walker's a hybrid linebacker edge. He's more of a true edge rusher, so either way, I think that's a win-win for the 49ers. Not sure if he made a pre-draft visit with the team or not, but defense was a weakness for that team. I guess a little piece of chicken wing got caught in Matt Parrino's throat here. That's all right. So now we have the Dallas Cowboys on the clock. Already down to less than a minute to go here because of how long it took for this pick to come in. The Cowboys are interesting. Not so much in terms of what they're doing here, but the hype with Jerry Jones going into this draft, talking about he's got two big trades that he's working on. And it makes you wonder, what is he looking for? Running back's been something that they've talked about. Breece Hall is reportedly available from the Jets. You have to think if maybe Travis Etienne is available with Jacksonville. I know they didn't end up going with a running back in round one, but there was a lot of hype about them going with, Genti there. So you have to think maybe running back's one of the big moves that the Cowboys are going to make. They're trying to make a splash here because they haven't made any big signings in free agency in a few years.
Yeah, Tetraro McMillan going at 8, I think changes the dynamic for the Cowboys in this draft. And the problem is, you go back to last season and watch when Dak Prescott was healthy, that offensive line needs some work. And I think that you're in a spot here to probably still land one of the top defensive linemen or offensive linemen. Here's another take on the Dallas Cowboys. A lot of times I felt like offensive coordinators were able to game plan to try to take Micah Parsons out of a game. So if you want to take a defensive lineman at this spot, to me, that makes a ton of sense to try to pair Micah Parsons. If you're going to hand him a brand new contract extension, which he's due for, maybe you want to add a defensive tackle. Maybe you want to go and get another edge rusher.
Right, absolutely. You have a special player in Micah Parsons. He's going to have a massive deal when the time comes. Make life easier for him. Add another weapon on the defensive line, or someone even in the back end, because the better you can cover on the back end too, the easier life becomes for you.
The trade up we were talking about this before, and I think a pick came in, so we kind of pivoted off of it. A potential trade up to 21 if the Steelers are reading the room and it feels like Shedeur Sanders is somebody that they can maybe get by trading back. The Bills going up 9 spots for a potential target. Who do you think? Tyler Booker to the oh, I totally spoiled that pick. Sorry. The pick is in, and I'm sorry we missed the commissioner. Tyler Booker, interior out and tackle player out of Alabama. This is an interesting pick. And listen, I think Jerry Jones is a big Shout Buffalo Bills football podcast fan. He was listening, and I said, go get an offensive lineman to protect Dak Prescott. That's what they did.
And, not to make this all about the Bills, but the more offensive linemen that you see coming off the board, the happier you have to be as a Bills fan. This is one area that's not a need whatsoever for Buffalo. It's a need for most of these other teams. And now you look at, right now Miami's on the clock. What does Miami need? An offensive line. They need to protect Tua. So the Cowboys are probably thinking, if we don't strike now and get who is arguably the best interior lineman in this draft class, they're not going to get that opportunity again. So nice pick for them. You have to wonder if maybe Miami follows suit and takes another offensive lineman. The longer this goes, the better it is for Buffalo here, who maybe they do sit pretty at pick 30 because of all the players that are still remaining that are on that interest list for them.
2,500 people watching live right now. Little companion second screen operation for Bills fans watching the draft. We appreciate you making us a part of your night. We're here at the New York Rec and Social Club. It's inside Turning Stone Resort Casino. If you're just tuning in, welcome in. And I got a big take on the Miami Dolphins here because they got a pick coming up here. Doesn't it feel like that defense 2 years ago is what I think a lot of people in the division now consider the Jets defense to be, and maybe eventually the Patriots? Like they had Christian Wilkins then. They were this really good young team. If they could figure things out on the offensive side, they had a contender. Now they want to trade Jalen Ramsey. Christian Wilkins plays in Las Vegas. Like all the big pieces on defense. I don't know how you can make this pick coming up here at 13. I know that they need offensive line help. It continues to be a problem there, and you have an immobile quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa. But there's serious needs on the defensive side of the ball for the Dolphins.
Yeah, and you just mentioned they're trying to trade away Jalen Ramsey. Maybe they go with the best cornerback here or get someone on a rookie deal for the foreseeable future, where you're in a division with Josh Allen, you're in a division with Drake May. Not so much Justin Fields as a concern in the as a passing weapon consistently, but you need those guys on the back end to contest passes. You saw how Josh Allen could make every wide receiver on that team look good 1 year ago. You need some defensive help for sure. We
have one comment said they watched us eat those wings, and they say now they want to order some wings now. Well, listen, if you're in driving distance, come on out to Central New York. Come on out to Turning Stone Resort Casino, New York Rec and Social Club. All right, so 13's coming up here for the Miami Dolphins. This draft couldn't have gone better for the Buffalo Bills through 12 picks. I feel like there's, at the positions of need, there are still plenty of options. Is the pick in here for the Dolphins, or are they just doing a little impromptu concert?
It might be an impromptu concert here because now they're doing another segment. This is huge on advertising. It's why they tell teams to milk that first round pick. But you're right. This is going great for the Bills so far. I will say a cautionary tale. A few years ago, everyone had the Bills going wide receiver in round 1. And then once you got to about pick 20, there was that run of wide receivers, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, and that list went on. Now, the Bills ended up going with Dalton Kincaid in that draft, and that might have been their primary focus. But these runs can happen at any point in time. When you're at 30 at the end of the first round, these defensive tackles or potential cornerbacks that I think a lot of people are projecting the Bills to take could still go off the board here in a hurry, but so far so good through 12 picks.
One player that the Bills have been linked in through reports has been Jedi Barron, the cornerback out of Texas. Now, I've seen in a lot of we have one fan in the house who showed me his mock draft beforehand, and he had the Bills going with Barron. Actually, why don't you come up here? We'll talk about your mock draft real quick. Come on up. Come up on the show. Let's bring him up. Come on in here, right in the middle. Come on, right in the middle. So, did you make a comment, by the way, show my 65-page mock draft? Was that you?
No, that was my friend Matt Kenzie.
Okay.
89-page mock draft.
89. Okay.
One Bills Drive needs to contact that man.
All right. So, what's your name again?
Tom DeGennaro.
Tom's in the house. So, he pulled up, Ryan, when I went over to talk to him, a full Microsoft document with his entire mock draft. And you had the Bills going with Jedi Barron. And I think that you had a really good reason why.
Well, I think the Bills have been losing games because they just can't make the big play, the big splash play. They can't get a third down stop. They can't get the interception. They need one more yard, one more second, whatever. The guys on my draft board are making splash plays. They're getting interceptions. They're causing fumbles. They're getting sacks. And Jedi Barron, I mean, Jim Thorpe Award, and he's a gamer. He can play the slot. He can play the corner. He can play safety. He can play anywhere that Sean wants him to play. And he can tackle, which is important. So I just think if they can get him, go up and get him. I mean, if they can do it, but we'll see.
So I love this, by the way. You said he's high up on your board. Take me through the process of making your board, because I feel like there is a cult community of draft fans that really put a lot of time and effort into like ranking these players.
My wife says I spend way too much time on this, but I listen to you guys. I listen to Cover One. I listen to Buffalo Plus, and Dean Kindig is a good source. And I buy some of the magazines, and I know the trends. At least I think I know the trends that the Bills are, what they draft, what they're looking for, character players, team captains, guys of good, who are going to be good team members. And they like freaks too. They like athletic freaks, 6'7", 6'8", whatever these guys are with 35-inch arms. There's trends that I look for. So I could be right. I could be wrong. It's fun.
Yeah. Shamar Stewart, right? Maybe Shamar Stewart. My
son Michael wants Shamar Stewart. Yeah, he had a high RAS score, and he's a freak.
So I want to bring Michael onto the show. No matter where Shamar Stewart goes, I want to bring you on the show if he becomes a great NFL player, so you could just dunk on Ryan, because he's been talking for the past couple of months about Shamar Stewart. He's not a believer. So I like the back and forth there.
I love the athleticism. I don't love the lack of production. That's the one thing that worries me about Stewart. But we were talking about this earlier. There have been some players where production in college wasn't there. They get in the right scheme, right system, and that athleticism takes over, and they become a really good pass rusher. So anything can happen.
Thank you so much for coming up here, man. This is really cool. Really cool. Coming all the way out from Albany.
Yeah.
Did you want to come on too? If you want, come on up. Listen, you made the drive all the way from Albany. You better give your hot draft take on here. Come on in. Go right on in. All right, so yeah, sit down right there. Make yourself comfortable. There's nothing wrong with that. So Shamar Stewart, what do you like about him?
Oh, he's a really nice edge rusher for them. I feel like he's a good prospect for them. From what I've read about him, like he has a good first step. Like he's quick getting off the line, and I'm not really sure about like a lot of the specifics about him. Like I know he played for a few years at A&M, and yeah, just see what he can do. I guess plug him in. I know they've already got some guys.
We got a draft pick here. Let's do a draft pick. We'll react to this live in person here. The Miami. Oh no!
Bills Mafia favorite, Kenneth Grant.
The Miami Dolphins go interior defensive line, and what's crazy about this? We were just talking about this. They really miss Christian Wilkins, and now they have Kenneth Grant in the middle of their defense. A Bills Mafia fan favorite.
Yeah. I mean, Kenneth Grant, my buddy Matt Kinzor, like I told you about this, like he did a mock draft and stuff, and he, like, I think he redshirted like in Michigan, I think his first year, but then he played pretty well. I mean, like he played all 4 years, like he stayed loyal, and I'm sure he's going to be a great prospect wherever he goes.
What do you think about this move, Ryan?
I like the move for Miami. Now, there's been some talk about Kenneth Grant. Is he a true 3-down defensive tackle? Is he more of a run stuffer, a 2-down type of player? But as long as he can be a difference maker when he is on the field, I love a lot about his game. It's why he was a very popular pick for the Bills in terms of what I thought they needed. You know, he's in a division right now where there is James Cook. I know there's a lot of strain in that relationship with the contract talks. There's Breece Hall, and New England's still going to run the ball a lot with a young offense and a young quarterback. So you need to have that run stuffer up in the middle, and Kenneth Grant can do that.
Kenneth Grant going at 13 is about the range that I thought he was going to go in. I didn't think the Bills were going to have a chance to draft him because when you talk about the size profile, he didn't flash as a pass rusher as much as a lot of people I think wanted him to. But I think there's still a ceiling that he could reach. I mean, Dexter Lawrence was not the pass rusher that has been in New York when he was coming out of college. And I think you invest in traits, to your point, in Shamar Stewart. Now, you mock the Bills an edge rusher. Why specifically are you looking for somebody on the edge knowing that there's some issues on the interior?
Yeah. I guess just trying to get someone who can help free up guys like Greg Rousseau, like AJ Epinesa. I know those guys like have been solid for the Bills, and they're both under contract like through this year, fortunately for us. But yeah, I mean, I think just guys who can play multiple positions can help the Bills a lot. Like I know, like I forget the guy's name, like out of Georgia, but like I heard he can play both DT and DE. So I mean, yeah, just having guys that they can plug in right away and just see how they can do, you know.
Michael, thank you so much for coming on, man. Really appreciate you. That was awesome. Great job. Great debut. Coming all the way up from Albany to check out the pod. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. All right, so that's pretty deflating for a lot of Bills fans, I think, as we kind of look through the comment section here.
Joel Gibson, ruthless. I'm drinking the tears of Bills fans who wouldn't stop talking about Grant.
So I love Joel Gibson. I don't love, shout out to Joel Gibson because I see all of his posts on all the Bills Mafia Facebook groups. And do you know what I remember most about him? He was the card carrying member of the Cole Kmet fan club. He said he was going to be the best thing since sliced bread. So holding out hope for Cole Kmet. Maybe they don't need a tight end because they got Cole Kmet.
Yeah, maybe.
Speaking of tight ends.
Well, speaking of tight ends, the Indianapolis Colts have been tied to a tight end, it seems like, in every mock draft. Now, mind you, in most of them, it was Loveland because Warren was going first. Warren falls all the way down the board, and now the Colts have to be thrilled to be able to get him, one of the top 2 tight ends in this draft class. They want that athletic player that can kind of, make big plays in the intermediate, deep part of the field. Tough to bring down. He was a force at times against Notre Dame and other games that I watched in this past season. Great blocker. I know, the Colts right now have a lot of question marks at the quarterback position in terms of who's going to win that job, what they're going to do. But in the event that Anthony Richardson comes out and wins that job, claims it over, you have now another weapon for a young quarterback who, and again, one thing on Richardson, supposedly working with Josh Allen this offseason. So if he comes in and wins it, now you've added another weapon for him.
So I think it's a very interesting pick. It's a pick that I actually was listening to one draft analyst talking about potentially the Indianapolis Colts pulling off a trade for Mark Andrews. I think this result is much better. You're going to have to pay Andrews. He's at the kind of the end of the line. You get a 5th-year option on Tyler Warren, and by most accounts, he's one of the top tight end prospects of the last 5 to 10 years. And I think you want to invest in that. You give your young quarterback a weapon, and I think that sets up nicely. I also think it's a good thing for the Bills that 2 tight ends have gone in the top 15. It's going to push some other, defensive linemen and some other players down the board.
Yeah, great graphic there by ESPN in terms of how he was used at Penn State in the slot. He lined up once at center, at quarterback a few times, obviously traditional tight end as well. They moved him all over the place. if you are a creative mind as an offensive coordinator, you can have some fun ideas and utilize Tyler Warren.
What were the specifics on the Derek Harmon medical? Was it a shoulder?
For Harmon?
Who did I say?
Derek
Harmon.
Derek Harmon? It might have been, and maybe I misspoke earlier when I talked about Nolan and his shoulder. I think it was Harmon having the shoulder. Warren, though, was falling down the board for another reason as well. So these the Bills do their due diligence on all these players. They brought in a lot of guys that either had character concerns or coming off of injuries. That's a benefit of these pre-draft visits that every team has up to 30 of. And included with that, you get an unlimited amount of Zooms. You can have private workouts. So if the Bills do end up taking a player tonight or throughout this draft that maybe there were some medical issues or character red flags, you'd have to feel like the Bills did enough research on them to feel good about either area.
I think the Bills are positioned, and I want to bring up Harmon specifically because he is in a different bucket than even Kenneth Grant. Because so first and foremost, on the player, it's 1 year of production. He really only had this last season at Oregon where he really showed what he could do as a pass rusher, run defender. Some believe he's a better run defender than Kenneth Grant, and that's what kind of Kenneth Grant is known for. So if he's falling in this draft because of medical concerns, I think the Bills are the kind of organization that if it's because of an injury that's going to keep him out early this season, I don't think that's an issue at all. I don't even think that would change things where you have him placed on your board. And I think because of the potential need, he's listed at 320. He came in at Oregon at like 340 or 350.
Right.
I mean, this is a guy that can play at almost any weight you want him.
Yeah, he'd be willing to move back up to a certain weight if you want him to be 325, 330, more of a traditional one-tech weight. But the Bills have also shown a tendency of having those players that are 310, 315 and playing the one-tech. So the fact that he has the ability to go up and down in terms of the body weight and still play at a high level could work out for the Bills.
Falcons are up next here on the board with about 250 remaining until that pick gets made. Obviously, they took Michael Penix Jr. The next pick after this, the Arizona Cardinals. Quarterback is not – Seattle has Sam Darnold on a brand-new contract. Quarterback is pretty much out of consideration. Tampa's Baker Mayfield. And then at 20 – who's at 20? Thinking off the top of my head.
So at 20 of Denver, no way they're going to Bo Nix. Right.
So really, quarterback won't come into play until the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21 at the earliest.
And then after that, there's another gap with no quarterbacks because you have Los Angeles, the Chargers, Justin Herbert. You have Green Bay. They love Jordan Love. The Vikings are sold still on JJ, a young QB. Stroud in Houston. So you might have to wait until 26 after that with Matthew Stafford and the Rams.
So we have almost 3,000 people watching live online across all platforms. We appreciate you joining us at this first ever live draft watch party shout edition. Things materializing for the Bills here as the Atlanta Falcons pick is almost about a little under 2 minutes away. What do you think would be the craziest development over the next 5 picks here? Because I guess the craziest thing would be quarterback. But in terms of players on the Bills' radar, Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia, Nick Amanawari, safety out of South Carolina, 2 guys that a certain section, at least, of Bills Mafia, big fans of. Starks has been a big topic of conversation online over the last couple of days. Do you think that any of these teams are maybe in play for a safety?
Yeah, I'm looking right now at the teams on board. Atlanta is one of their biggest needs, safety. Arizona, safety's listed. Cincinnati does not have safety listed, but the Seahawks and the Buccaneers and Broncos do. So there could be a run on safeties at this point. The one thing I'll say, though, Matt, is we've looked at this over the last few years. It feels like safeties are almost I guess linebackers are the running backs of the draft in terms of how they get pushed down the board. But safeties have to be right there with it. A guy like Brian Branch who fell. Kyle Hamilton, who went way too far down in that draft class years ago based on his overall talent. So they do seem to kind of fall down the draft board. Would not shock me whatsoever if the Bills had a choice of a playmaker at safety at pick 30.
I feel like there's like the air was let out of the balloon in terms of Bills Mafia online right now. The Kenneth Grant hype train was real. I mean, I think a lot of people had their eggs in that basket when the reports came out earlier today that the Bills were kind of talking to at least the Pittsburgh Steelers about a potential trade up. I think Kenneth Grant was probably at the top of Bills fans' wish list. So now if you're Brandon Beane and say Kenneth Grant was that player, what's the pivot here? Because I think there's so many cornerbacks still left on the board. You're perfectly comfortable letting this thing play out over the course of the next 10 picks, kind of seeing where things are at when you get to 24, 25, maybe as late as the Houston Texans at 26 before you think you might have to make a move up for somebody like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can wait and see how this plays off. There's a run on one of the positions that you're coveting. Maybe it's a trade down option. If there's a few players that you like, though, and you get close to 23, 24, maybe you make your move up. There's still a lot of possibilities because this has played out nicely for the Bills, minus the Kenneth Grant pick recently. But the one thing I'll say, Matt, the Bills weren't tied to Grant much in terms of the pre-draft process. I believe they talked to him at the NFL Scouting Combine, where teams pretty much talk to every prospect. If it's not a formal interview, there's a ton of informal interviews, short meetings. They weren't tied to him, though, and that's the one thing that I kept going back to. No 30 visit, no private workout, wasn't linked to them via Zoom meetings, so they could have liked him and just felt he was a safe player, which is another reason why some players don't come in. But maybe he wasn't really high on their board overall because of the reasons I stated earlier. Was more of a 2-down player more than a 3-down at this point in time. But it looks like we're about to get Atlanta's pick.
They just went to commercial as you said that. Oh, no. Oh, there's two different broadcasts. There must be an NFL Network and an ESPN. The pick is in here for Atlanta. All right, Jalen Walker, linebacker, edge rusher out of Georgia.
Gets to stay home.
Yeah, and listen, this, by most accounts, after Abdul Carter, a lot of draft analysts had Jalen Walker as the top pass rusher on the outside in this draft class. So this was a big-time need for the Atlanta Falcons. They add the player. This is a young, exciting team. We got Kenny Lacy in the house. Does a great job covering high school sports for Syracuse.com. Huge Atlanta Falcons fan. We were talking to him a little bit before the draft, and he said this was a big is he over there? Is Kenny still here? Get him up here and do a little. Yeah, get on up here, Kenny. Get him up here, Kenny. Want a little reaction to the pick. Come on up here.
Pumping.
Yeah, come on up here, Kenny. So we got an Atlanta Falcons fan in the house, and we have some live draft analysis for you. We were talking about this right before the draft started, that this was an area that you thought that Atlanta could go. Why don't you get right on the middle there, buddy? Kenny Lacy in the house, Syracuse sports high school reporter, obviously an Atlanta Falcons fan. What do we think?
I love the pick. I didn't think there was any chance he'd be available there. I thought he would go to the Panthers, which now he's not in our division. He's on our team, so couldn't be any happier right now.
So if you look across this defensive line now, what stands out? I'm trying to even think. They lost Grady Jarrett. He went over to the Bears. So what does this look like? What does this new look defensive line look like in Atlanta?
I mean, now you have Jalen Walker. You have, Anyamata's still there. He's old, but we'll figure it out there. Ebiketie kind of turned a corner last year. So you're kind of just hoping now with Jalen Walker that he can be the next guy like what Grady Jarrett was. Maybe he's your next guy for the next decade.
On the offensive side of the ball for Atlanta, I think there's so much excitement. And I'm saying that because I'm a proud Dynasty fantasy owner of Bijan Robinson and Drake London. But what do you think is like the expectations for this season and maybe the ceiling on this version of the Atlanta Falcons now that you have more information and the picture is clearer with the addition of Walker?
I mean, to me, the ceiling is still winning the division because Tampa Bay, obviously, yes, they've run the division for the past few years, but they are getting older now. And how much longer can Baker Mayfield carry that team? The Falcons have a whole new regime now. You have Michael Penix, who's going to have a whole offseason under his belt. He's really working with the team. It seems like Drake London has great chemistry with him. Kyle Pitts has really loved him. Bijan Robinson obviously is Bijan Robinson. I mean, I think the ceiling is still winning the division. I'm not sure how much further you go after that, but with a pick like this, you're hoping your defense now turns a corner. So I'm excited.
One last thing. I'm going to throw a trade idea at you and see how you handle it. The Atlanta Falcons trade Kyle Pitts for a late first-round pick or maybe an early second-round pick. Are you in or are you out?
I'm out. I don't know what else I mean, depending on who's available. If Will Johnson is still there and you can get another corner to pair with AJ Terrell, then yeah, that'd be a great pick. But other than that, I mean, who do you get that moves the needle? I know Kyle Pitts has been a disappointment to some people, but I think it's a product of quarterback play. So I don't want to see us move on from Kyle Pitts without seeing him in a full year with Michael Penix.
Look at this professional coming up in the middle of a couple drinks. Great Atlanta Falcons analysis. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you, brother. Killed it. Kenny Lacy. Killed it. Came up and covered a Bills game this year with me. Awesome stuff. Rising star in the business. All right, so where are we at here? We lost the feed. We got the basketball game up there.
Arizona is coming up here. Yeah, please feel.
No, get on up here. Get him up here. You sit right down in that chair. I see the Bills sweatshirt on. What's your name? Liz?
Nice to meet you.
How are you?
I'm great. I mean, this is so exciting. I'm missing football so much that at least we're here and absorbing all this. It's great.
Now, are you Central New York?
Yes, I'm from Utica. Yeah.
All right, so how long have you been a Bills fan?
You see, my daughter lives in Orchard Park and teaches at Orchard Park High School. And so she's been there about 25 years. And that's when we became Bills fans.
So you've gone through the ups and downs as a Bills fan.
Yes, I have. But I'm still hoping.
So a lot has happened so far. Do you have a particular player or position that you want the Bills to draft?
Yeah, I want them to their offensive line. I want it to be a little stronger. Yeah.
It feels like every year the defensive line is kind of what lets things down in the playoffs.
Absolutely. We got the quarterback. Now we got to give him the support. So that's what I'm hoping.
Do you think that Josh Allen has an acting future now that he's engaged to Haley Steinfeld? Because did you see Sauce Gardner's comments today on social media?
Yeah, talking about how he's not going to go see that movie out of respect for his boy Josh Allen.
But he's been in so many commercials. I feel like Josh Allen could go into movies.
I think when you look at most of the players, I mean, they're all destined for Hollywood at some point. So yeah, I think he could definitely, go there.
What's your favorite Bills memory of the last couple of years?
Oh, I got to be honest. It's more than the last couple of years. It was one September we were playing the Patriots in an opening game, and it was a night game, and we beat the Patriots. I forgot what year it was, but
was that the Lawyer Malloy game?
I could be trying to remember. I'm not sure. Many years ago. Yeah, it was like 2002 or something like that. Yeah.
About right. Yeah.
So that was in the middle of, not even the middle. That was the beginning of the drought.
Yeah, it was. And it was like, it's always, one thing about the football and the Bills fans is that no matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, no matter who you are, when it comes to the Bills, we're all one. We're all one. And it really brings us together. And that's what I love about football. And to me, it's just so exciting to be able to share with others, our hopes and aspirations for a Super Bowl. But like I said, my house is just full of Bills memorabilia, Bills everything. It just makes us happy. We love it.
So final thing, prediction for this season. How many wins for the Bills, and what do they do in the playoffs?
I think we're going to lose about 2 games. Yeah, we're gonna maybe lose 2, and that's about it. We're gonna make the playoffs again, and then we're gonna cross our fingers.
Yeah, that's as far as you'll go. Awesome stuff. Thank you so much for coming on,
Matt. We have our next pick.
We got a pick in. All right, what's up now?
So we have Walter Nolan going to the Arizona Cardinals.
So this is interesting because I thought Cincinnati Bengals defensive tackle a need for them, right? Like, I mean, if they're going to sign Trey Hendrickson, finding an interior pass rusher is something that I think that defense needs to figure out. But now the top 2 guys at that position arguably off the board. Derek Harmon, depending on who you're reading. Some people have him a little bit higher. Nolan, he was a guy that really, his stock started to rise at the Senior Bowl and has consistently kind of gone up over the course of the process.
Yeah, and it was Nolan that had some slight character concerns, but there was talk of him going in the top 10. Obviously fell a little bit further than that. The talent's certainly there. A riser, like you said, at the Senior Bowl. Someone that I really like for Arizona. And, now you sit there and we just talked about this. first 12 picks looked good. Now you have a few D tackles off the board. If that was Buffalo's priority, maybe they look at trading down out of round 1. But if it's cornerback, you're still feeling pretty good.
You know, wide receiver, I've seen some people mock Matthew Golden from Texas, who is, I think, consensus the next best wide receiver available. Some people even had him ranked ahead of T-Mac, Tetraro McMillan. He's somebody that's interesting to me because for Seattle, of course, they traded DK Metcalf, and it makes sense to add a wide receiver. But there's other needs on that team. I mean, on both sides of the ball. The longer that Matthew Golden hangs out and around, especially into the 20s, I think that gets really interesting. I don't think he makes it to Buffalo at 30, but if he does, if that scenario presents itself and you have your pick of the cornerbacks or Matthew Golden or maybe a Malachi Starks, where do you go?
That's tough because I know, Josh Allen was rocking the everyone eats established 2024 hat, but if you can get a difference maker at wide receiver, you have to strongly consider it. They probably didn't think Matthew Golden would be there at the end of round 1. Starks is one of 3 difference makers at safety, but the Bills really do like Taylor Rapp. They were high on Cole Bishop a year ago. I still think safety is in play, but maybe that'd get pushed down a little bit with Golden on the board. And then cornerback, I know they've brought back Dane Jackson and Trey White. But those are both Band-Aids. Those are short-term solutions. I'm not even willing to necessarily say a cornerback 2 solution, more depth than anything else. So if you have your pick at corners that fit your scheme, like a Trey Amos, you almost have to lean that way, in my opinion.
Shout out to Go Army, Sink Navy. That was his big mock draft that the fans in the house were talking about. So sending out a little love to him. This has been absolutely awesome. Live watch party, our first ever. We're going to peak out here at 3,000 live viewers across all platforms. Great stuff on draft night. And it's not over. Don't go too far. Keep it locked on to the Shout podcast platform across YouTube, Facebook, and X. We will be live right after the first round. Maybe a little bit after. Maybe we'll wait to hear from Brandon Bean. But we'll have reaction to who the Bills draft. We're going to have a second podcast tonight. It's going to be awesome.
Cannot wait, Matt. This one was awesome as well. Thank you to the over 3,000 people watching live, everyone here tonight. Great atmosphere. Cannot wait to come back again.
Yeah, shout out to everybody in the house tonight. It's been an awesome, lively atmosphere. And I'm telling you right now, if you're watching this episode, get out to New York Rec and Social Club. Inside Turning Resort and Casino. You can make an entire weekend. You can come up for the day, whatever you want. It is awesome in here. It is a sports lover's dream. Every time we get to bring Shout to New York Rec and Social Club, we are all in. For Ryan Talbot, I'm Matt Parrino. See you in a couple hours, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the draft.